Welcome to another episode of the Sleeper Dynasty Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Lehman. Thanks for tuning in. Today, we have Xavier Legette versus Ricky Pearsall. Who should you be drafting in your rookie leagues? Let's get into it. They're both older prospects, elite athletes, and they're both dealing with injuries at the moment. Oh, and by the way, they were both drafted at the end of the first round of the NFL draft. So there's two things you need to know about Xavier Legette. He has superior size and athleticism. At 6'1", 221 pounds, he's 23 years old, so a bit older. He also ran a 4.3940 at the combine, and that led to him having a 9.92 relative athletic score, and he also had a vertical that was in the 93rd percentile. I really keep saying it, guys. He looks like A.J. Brown out there on the field. He really does. He was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school by ESPN, but he was a 4-star recruit by 24/7 Sports. And honestly, he didn't really do anything to write home about until his 5th season in college. But in that 5th season, he had 3.05 yards per team pass attempt last year, and that is elite. So let's get into his stats. In 2019, 9 receptions for 80 yards and 1 touchdown. In 2020, 7 receptions for 113 yards and no touchdowns. In 2021, 8 receptions for 63 yards and 1 touchdown. In 2022, 18 receptions for 167 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then in 2023, he finally went over 200 yards. He got 71 receptions for 1,255 yards and 7 touchdowns. So, really, like I said, nothing to write home about. His first 4 seasons in college, very concerning. This is the biggest thing with Xavier Legette is we have 1 year, right? So if you are in on Xavier Legette, if you're drafting Xavier Legette, it's because you believe that what he showed in his 5th year, that's who he's going to be in the NFL, which honestly could be. He had Spencer Rattler that last year, so that's probably why he had more success at South Carolina that year. Just being honest, that's the quarterback play probably led to him being more successful, right? The one thing I do like, I said this in a previous episode, I really like the fact that Deebo Samuel went to some of his college games and was really hyping him up. I think that's huge for a player just to have someone you look up to come out to your games, and not only come out to your games, but really just encourage you and probably give you some tips and pointers. So I really liked that he was on that level with Deebo. So Mike Clay, he does projections over at ESPN on their app. He has him as wide receiver 59, and in 2024, he has him going for 51 receptions, 674 yards, and 3 touchdowns. He also has him going for 6 carries for 39 yards on the ground. Let's get into Ricky Pearsall. 2 things you need to know about Ricky Pearsall: his athleticism and his elite route running. At 6'1", 189 pounds, he's also 23 years old. He ran a 4.41 40 time at the combine, leading to a 9.91 relative athletic score. Whew. Also, his vertical, broad jump, and 3-cone were all above the 90th percentile, which is extremely elite. He was a 3-star recruit by ESPN and 24/7 Sports. Let's get into his college stats. A little bit more impressive than his Xavier Legette, not going to lie. In 2019, he had 7 receptions for 128 yards and no touchdowns. In 2020, he had 6 receptions for 86 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. In 2021, 48 receptions, 580 yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns. That's the year he kind of broke out. In 2022, 33 receptions for 661 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. And then in 2023, he had 65 receptions, 965 yards, and 4 receiving touchdowns. I do also want to add the fact that he had a rushing element to his game. So in 2019, he didn't really do anything. In 2020, he had 3 attempts for 33 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. In 2021, 6 attempts, 44 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. In 2022, 8 attempts, 113 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. And then in 2023, he had 3 attempts, 62 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. So really, it just kind of shows that he, at the goal line, he can be used as a weapon out of the backfield, is really all you need to know. Probably on just using him in reverses, being creative. He can do that for you. And obviously, Kyle Shanahan is going to do that with him, right? Mike Clay has him projected as wide receiver 72. He has him going for 29 receptions, 384 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns, and also has him going for 5 carries and 29 yards on the ground. I'm going to assume that those projections have Brandon Ayuk staying on the 49ers this season, and that is why his projection is so much less than Xavier Legette. So who should you be drafting? Who should you be trading for? Who should you be trying to get here, right? The answer lies with the future of Brandon Ayuk, right? It just does. Like, he is a huge part of this. And at the moment, that news is kind of all over the place. There's news that he's going to be traded, all of these rumors. And then at the same time, you have the 49ers coming back saying that they're recircling to try to, make an attempt at getting a deal done. We don't know. We don't know if that deal is going to get done. Like, we really don't know. We don't know if it's going to be a Devontae Adams situation where by the time the deal does get to a point where it's going to be done, he's just so frustrated that he just wants out, right? We don't know. But without knowing the future, right? Without knowing the future of Brandon Ayuk, me personally, I'm going to say that Xavier Legette is the better pick. He's going to have a better rookie season, and we know that better rookie seasons project a better NFL careers, right? That being said, draft Xavier Legette, right? Trade for Xavier Legette, whatever you need to do to get Xavier Legette on your team right now for the value. But I would be targeting Ricky Pearsall in the future after a disappointing rookie season, right? Because people are going to be out on Ricky Pearsall. They're going to be disappointed, right? But I would say in a vacuum, Ricky Pearsall seems to be a better prospect, a more consistent prospect, right? His college stats, a lot more impressive, a lot more to write home about than just the last season, right? It seems like he's a little bit more, he's shown consistency in his career. So in a vacuum, I would say take Ricky Pearsall. He's also just, he's partnered up with Brock Purdy instead of, Xavier Legette's partnered up with Bryce Young. So, Bryce Young has had a bad rookie season. We're expecting him to bounce back with some weapons. You just don't know. We've seen it from Brock Purdy, right? So even though you have a loaded wide receiver room with the 49ers, we definitely trust them as an organization, right? And we also trust the quarterback for the future. So I would say target Ricky Pearsall in the future, but I do see his value in the near future taking a dip. Now, if Brandon Ayuk gets traded in the near future, the answer is Ricky Pearsall, right? If he gets traded, you need to take Ricky Pearsall over Xavier Legette. End of story, right? He's going to be going into a better situation, taking the spot of Brandon Ayuk. So, yeah, that's enticing, right? Overall, they're both elite athletes. Both are in the 99th percentile of athletes coming into the NFL. What more can you ask for? They're a little bit older. At the end of the day, they're both 23. You gotta take them and know that you're taking an older prospect. But obviously, both of those organizations believed in them enough to take them at the end of the first round of the NFL draft. So that in itself, the fact that you can get these guys a little bit later in rookie drafts, I mean, I'm taking that all day. Like, it's a first round wide receiver. They're not going to lose value. And I will also say, these are good targets at the end of your redraft leagues as well, not just for Dynasty. So I would say Xavier Legette is a great target at the end of your redraft league, more so than Ricky Pearsall. But like I said, if Brandon Ayuk leaves, Ricky Pearsall is someone to add off the waiver wire for sure. That's going to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys so much for listening. if you haven't already, go check out the free. It is 100% free. The 2024 rookie cheat sheet at sleeperdynasty.com. You can also get the link in the show notes. It's free, guys. Go grab it. Also, if you're listening on YouTube, make sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating and review, and make sure to follow so that you don't miss out on future episodes. Also, if you haven't already, check us out on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Sleeper Dynasty. Peace.